Oh, man, what a college football season. So I mentioned as it opened, thank you for joining us here on Unfair Sports on our YouTube channel. So make sure you like, subscribe, share, because sharing is caring. And check out, I'll be posting shorts on there a lot. So make sure you check out the quick stats that I like to give you all on the YouTube channel. So with that, college football weekend was fantastic. We had the Red River Showdown, as they like to call it now. I don't care what they say. It was a freaking shootout. We had the Oklahoma Sooners mounting the greatest comeback probably in that game's history, winning against the Texas Longhorns 55-48. Right. A lot of changes happened in that game. A lot of fun happened and a lot of collapsing. First and foremost, Texas decided to start the game off with a 75-yard touchdown first play of the game. Yeah. Pretty embarrassing for Oklahoma. Followed by, what was that, an interception and then a Bijan Robinson touchdown to go along with it. Everything went bad. Actually, Oklahoma punt. Everything went bad for Oklahoma in that game, to the point of our boy Spencer Rattler getting benched after 2 turnovers. And Texas went up 28-7 at the end of the first quarter. Yep. Then things turned differently. Oklahoma decided to bring in the new young buck, Caleb Williams. And he went out there and ran a 66-yard touchdown to start the game off and led them to the victory all the way through. So, Jimmy, what do you think about that game? Let's start there first.
Well, it was a kind of a bit of a disjointed experience for me. I watched the first probably quarter and a half. Then I had to attend the funeral.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And I did tape the game. By the time I come back, the game was over, had just been completed, but I had been getting updates here and there on my phone. So then I watched from the point that I stopped watching all the way through to the end. So it was kind of an odd experience for me. And usually I need to watch a game all the way through to truly have a great understanding of what happened. But outside of that, it was one of the most fantastic offensive displays I've ever seen. There's a reason why I think this has become the most entertaining rivalry in college football, because there's never a dull moment in this game. Some years you can watch the Iron Bowl with Alabama and Auburn. Usually Alabama wins that. And it's a pretty good game. Even Ohio State, Michigan is usually a pretty good game. And I don't know if there are other really good rivalries out there, but there's something about this rivalry, just where it is when it's played. I love how early in the season it's played, that, again, this not only lived up to the hype, but it exceeded what we're used to seeing, even despite, what was that, a quadruple overtime game last year. Somehow this eclipsed it because of how
53-45 last year.
Yeah, just how insane this game was. But from an offensive standpoint, one of the most just fun, entertaining, fantastic displays of offense I have seen. And I know that part of that has to do with what the defense did or didn't do, or was or wasn't doing. But all that notwithstanding, just an incredible game.
It was incredible. And yeah, as you mentioned, with Auburn, the Iron Bowl and everything, Alabama typically wins. Oklahoma typically wins too. I think Texas has only won like 4 times or 5 times in like the last 20 games. It's been brutal.
Yeah, OU's taking the last 4, right?
Yes, they won the last 4. And I think the win-loss is way Oklahoma. It's kind of like Alabama's is. But no, this game was fantastic. It was great to watch Oklahoma go through all this adversity and come back. We knew it was going to be this type of game. I made the mistake of taking Texas against the spread.
What was it?
4. And Texas did exactly what I actually thought Texas was going to do to me. They took that L at the end of the freaking game. But now it's leading to a big controversy because we have Spencer Rattler out the game. We have Caleb Williams going in. So now going into next week, the question is, who should start going forward? I'm going to say this. Okay. I'm going a little against the grain, everybody. Right. I think it should be Spencer Rattler. This is my reason why. I loved everything that Caleb Williams did in that game. I think he was fantastic. I think there's a reason why he didn't start from the beginning of the season. I think that reason will populate if he starts this next game against a coach who is known for giving Oklahoma problems in Gary Patterson and his defense at TCU. I don't think this is the game that you bring him in as a starter. I think if you bring him in as a starter, you wait the next week and you do it against Kansas, a game that you're guaranteed to beat the dog snot out of those boys. do it in a safer space. Let him cook in that game. But against a team like TCU, who's infamous for giving you problems, you don't do it. I think Rattler, you need to find a way to keep Rattler in just for this season. Because after this season, Rattler's either going to transfer or he's going to the draft. I think about 90% chance he's going to have to go transfer because he's going to have to make up for this bad season, head to the Pac-12, dominate at Arizona or Arizona State, and boom, you'll be back in the conversation of at least a third-round pick. But to me, you kind of got to keep the offense humming with Spencer Rattler, but play a lot of Caleb Williams with it because there's a reason why, and I'll explain in a minute. But what do you think they should go with?
So like in Vegas, we've been betting degenerates for quite some time.
I am a degenerate.
And depending upon the language of the Vegas expert you're talking to, they divide people into two groups who bet. And you'll know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
The sharps are basically the experts, usually the professionals, usually the ones who know what they're doing, and the squares, which is basically the public.
Everybody
They'll
is.
see a team like, oh, Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going to bet them. They don't know the spread. They don't know the situation, none of that. When you say that they should keep Spencer Rattler in as a starting quarterback, you're thinking like a sharp. Because part of what that involves a lot of times, just as in betting, is you end up having to do things you don't necessarily like having to do. You end up having to do things that are very much against the grain, very much against the public and what they're thinking. I think you're right on the money that Spencer Rattler needs to remain the quarterback. And here are my reasons why. If I recall correctly, this exact same thing happened last season.
Year. They benched
right?
Spencer because of turnovers, and somebody else led them to victory. Yes.
Right. And I think that after that, he was much better. And I think that this is going to be the exact same thing. He is going to be a much better quarterback because of this, because he's getting another opportunity, having to, once again, as a young quarterback, learn from his mistakes. And he is going to be a much more responsible quarterback throughout the year because his turnovers, it's not arm talent, it's not throws, it's not how he runs the offense, it's those turnovers, it's decision making. So I think that this is going to help him to be a lot more careful, but feeling that pressure of Caleb Williams immediately behind him, breathing down his neck, a lot of times, if you're a baller, it brings out the best in you.
Yes.
So if he's not a baller, he will crack under this, and he shouldn't be the starter anymore. So I think football-wise, because he's been the one commanding this offense now for – was it 1 or 2 seasons?
This is the second season. He was behind Jalen Hurts 3 years ago.
His second season.
So, yeah.
And I think that just because Caleb Williams came in and he was brilliant in this game doesn't necessarily mean that he's ready to be the starter because they're in practice and in those meetings with him every single day. So they know.
Something that we don't know.
Exactly. They know who needs to be the starter of this team. So there's that. And at the same time, let's say Lincoln Riley, just man-to-man, person-to-person, wanting to do a solid for him because let's say Spencer Rattler does, in fact, indeed intend to come out.
Transfer.
Yeah. Not transfer.
Oh.
Let's say he decides he wants to go ahead and go to the NFL anyway, since this is a draft that's not going to be quarterback heavy.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to be taken a lot higher up than he probably should be.
Mm-hmm.
If Lincoln Riley benches him right now, he's going to cost him millions of dollars.
Yes, it's true.
Because the longer he stays on the bench, right, the more those millions of dollars are going to decrease because of where he's going to be slotted at in the draft. So he's really doing him a solid. He's giving him every opportunity in order to not only prevent that from happening, but to maintain his role as the quarterback of this team. So I think that between those two, he's going to give him every chance to be successful.
Yep.
And if it still looks like that, despite all that, Rattler is still making these same kind of mistakes, then he has no choice. Rattler will understand. And then in that type of situation, I think he will transfer, go to a different situation, and then do the best he can in whatever program that he chooses. But, yeah, I agree with you. Spencer Rattler should still be the starter of this team.
And it's hard for me to even say that I think that Spencer should, not just because of Caleb Williams' performance, but I think the effect that Caleb Williams has on the team is a lot bigger of a deal that no one really talks about. Because that's the one problem that I was talking to our boy Bryce, and we had a conversation about this. And that was one rumor that was going around like with the Dallas Cowboys back when they had Tony Romo, is that the player's only been in Romo's house maybe once, maybe twice. So he didn't have the type of relationship. But Dak brings them over on a regular basis. He has a foundational friendship and relationship with those players on that team to where they rally behind him. He has kind of the Tom Brady effect. Like the running joke about him is that when rookies come in, Tom Brady walks up to them and shakes their hand and says, "Hey, my name is Tom Brady." And of course, the rookies are like, "Dog, I grew up watching you. I know who you are."
Right.
But Tom's basically, and he's doing it purposefully. He's showing them that I'm one of you. I'm like you. I'm just a normal guy. I'm a football player on this team. I'm not above you. I'm Tom Brady. I want you to understand that I am eye to eye with you. Caleb, the way that the players were rallying around him and supposedly the way that they celebrate with him, they like him a lot more than they like Spencer Rattler, and more so because Spencer Rattler had a bad reputation anyway in the QB1 series on Netflix. Everyone's called him a jerk, said he was horrible. Jalen Hurts kind of calmed that down for him and taught him how to be a better leader, but he still rubs people the wrong way.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And it's not that he's just a bad person. He just rubbed people the wrong way. He's a little arrogant when he came in. This humbles him. This makes him think twice about the way he acts toward everyone. He needs to go out there now and really get them to rally around him. But this is the one problem I run into with this whole situation and why I almost said Caleb needs to start. The offense is completely different with him than it is with Spencer. And this is what I mean. Lincoln Riley just learned the type of quarterback he has to recruit moving forward. His offense is not set to have a pocket passer at all. His offense is set with timing routes. And that's how you kind of noticed it when Caleb Williams threw that pass to, was that Stogner, and he threw it behind him. It's a timing route. So you have to count, boom, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. And you launch it to that spot, but he couldn't. Caleb's not good at the timing routes. Spencer is. But Spencer has one problem that Caleb doesn't. Spencer's not a scrambler. Spencer is not a dual threat quarterback because every team knows he ain't running very fast. We've watched him try. It does not work. And because of that, Caleb gives them their offense. And this is where you saw the difference with the Texas defense. And the saving grace was that the key play of all of this was that 66-yard quarterback draw for a touchdown. The defense realized they had to keep a defender back to shadow him. They can't blitz like they want to. And because they can't blitz the way they wanted to, Caleb basically had time to throw passes to people open. Also, at the same time, he was just chunking this shit to random people. He basically looked, it was funny because Kenneth Murray had tweeted out, he was like, dude, this dude looked at the field and said, Mims is out there somewhere, and just launched it. And he really did in most of these passes. He's just throwing it. And because he has the confidence of getting into a spot where the receiver will come back and get it, that helps. That's a dynamic that they don't have with Spencer Rattler, unfortunately. So now Lincoln Riley knows when I recruit, can't go for guys like Rattler no more. I got to get a guy that can move and at least make the defense respect the potential of him scrambling.
So we believe that what Lincoln Riley should do is keep Spencer Rattler as his starting quarterback. But what do you think he will do?
He's going to probably keep Rattler at quarterback, but play a lot of Caleb Williams in the game. I think they're going to go with a 2-quarterback system, which is smart. You can throw Rattler out there, a receiver, and let him catch a couple passes here and there and go out of bounds. He can catch a ball on the flat and then run out. There's nothing wrong with that. It makes sense to have the 2-quarterback system the way they're set up today because Caleb brings that dynamic to where the defense has to have a shadow on him at all times. Rattler doesn't. You blitz Rattler, that offensive line is not very good, and it's because they're young. If you compress that line around Caleb Williams, he's going to get out and he's going to move, and then the defense is stuck trying to defend all of these receivers on timing routes. Rattler, that's why he completes 70-something% of his passes. He knows how to hit timing routes. He just doesn't have time. Caleb creates time, and so now they're going to figure out how to balance that.
Well, I think one thing one thing that I thought of too with all this, just hearing you talk about these Caleb Williams packages and what he can do and how his skill set is different in certain areas than Spencer Rattler. Just makes it even more exciting. And that's why fans want him in there because they want to see him. They want to see more of those 66-yard runs and just the type of passes that he threw. But I think that Oklahoma, and to some degree Texas, but Oklahoma essentially assured themselves a place in the college football playoff. Now, you might be thinking, what are you talking about? The defense is terrible. They gave up 48 points. Well, the defense is not terrible. Don't worry about that. But look at what the college football playoff is looking at right now if things stand pat. Essentially, you're looking at Georgia, who suffocates people on defense. They're not fun to watch. You look at Iowa. They're not fun to watch. You look at who else? Is it Penn State? They beat Penn State, right?
No, Penn State lost to Iowa, so no.
So you need a team like Oklahoma in this college football playoff because I told you my theory. It's a television show. Forget the 4 best teams in college football. It's a television show.
Cincinnati. Who wants to watch Cincinnati?
Nobody wants to watch Cincinnati.
That's what I thought. Then you got Oklahoma, you got Alabama, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Oregon wrapping it up with Michigan State. Yes, you're right. They have solidified.
They've got to get them in this game.
Iowa's going to take an L this season. Oklahoma should go undefeated this year. Alabama should continue their undefeated streak. And Ohio State will probably, if they don't lose to Michigan or Penn State, will probably move up. So they'll probably end up being number 1 Oklahoma because Georgia's going to lose to probably Alabama in the SEC championship game.
Right.
Then you'll have so if they lose, you'll have Oklahoma Cincinnati, I don't see them coming out undefeated. I think they're going to lose a game. So that gives you Oklahoma at 1 if they go undefeated. Number 2 is going to probably be Alabama because they're going to go undefeated for the rest of the way. Number 3, if Ohio State wins, it'll be them or Penn State or Michigan. And then number 4 is probably going to be Georgia. So honestly, that it's going to go right back to the way that we thought it was going to be right. If everything goes the way that we expected. Now, the question is, can Oklahoma beat Oklahoma State, which is going to be a toughie. So, yeah, it was great weekend to even, like I said, talking through this. I'm excited to see what they look like, and they've even solidified themselves for the next couple of years because Caleb's going to be a monster. He's a true freshman, so he's got 2 more years, and all they got to do is recruit a good dual threat to go right behind him. Oh, my God, Oklahoma's going to be good. So
QBU continues.
QBU continues. Caleb will be the Heisman favorite next year. Just keep that in mind, right. Especially as a dual threat. So